Hi everybody, this is Oksana, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make this little dangly pendant. It uses a small little round stone and it has this little thick wire bail that it dangles from. So if you want to see how I made this, just keep watching. The wire that I'm using is 21 gauge square dead soft copper. Looks like this. I get my wire at riogrande.com and I'm using 2 pieces of it, and they measure about 9.5 inches, and my stone is quite small. It's a little round stone and it measures about 12 millimeters. I'm gonna be also using some 24 gauge half round wire. You can use 24 or 22 gauge half round wire. It looks like this. And I'm using this wire to connect the other 2 wires to each other. So if you kind of take a look and see where roughly the middle of those 2 wires is, and then you grab this half round wire, and let me zoom in here. I like to just grab myself a long little tail end of it, but it's still connected to the spool, so if this turns out to not be enough, then we can always start wrapping in the other direction with the other wire. So I'm just going around and around. When you have a little end of wire like this, it's pretty easy to just have it go around and around like that. But say you run out, like I still have some left, but say you don't and you run out and you need to work with this end that's connected to the spool, you just guide with your hand, and then with the other hand you turn the piece. You can't do it the same way where you go around and around, because the half round wire would end up getting twisted. Alright, so it's not super important how long this bit is. I know mine is pretty long looking, but it doesn't have to be. It's just going to be bent and it's going to be like a little angle. And I like for the angle to have like a decent amount of wrapping on each side. You'll see in 1 second. So I'm just trimming off those little wire ends, and I'm just coming in here with my pliers, and then with my pliers I'm just pushing down on those wire ends. You want them both to be on the same side, and then just flatten the whole thing, and then try to find the middle of it with the wire ends facing you and bend it at an angle like this. So the wire ends are facing downwards right now. Now for this next part, it's helpful if you have something round. I'm just using a ring mandrel on the smallest size, which is a size 1, but if you have like a pencil or a marker, you can do that too. And I'm just bending these edges around. You definitely want something small though. You don't want it to be too big, because my stone is quite small, assuming you're using the same size stone as I am. So after you've bent it like that, you actually want to bring these together a little bit. So I'll show you like this. And what you want to do now is, there's 2 wires, right? There's this one on top, and you want that one on top to kind of be here in the middle, and then the one that's on the bottom, you want to just kind of gently push it so it ends up being on the outer edges. So you have 4 wires and they're lined up like this. And just to show you here the size in relation to my stone, so my stone is going to go here like this. So that's the look I'm going for. If this was like much bigger, then it might not work. So you just want the stone to be kind of like this, fit like that. All right, so we're gonna just take this half round wire flat side down, and we're gonna wrap it around all 4 of these wires. Now what you might have to do as you do this is those 4 wires are not like super flat lined up because they want to be like this one wants to pop up top. So you might have to just press once with your pliers to get them nice and flat like that. Now before I trim off this wire end, I'm actually just going to put it through the middle here. It'll just make it less likely to unravel, and then I'm going to trim it off, and I'm leaving that little end so that when I pinch it down, it's just right here. Do you see that little wire end? And that'll get covered up with the stone, so don't worry about that. And we're gonna go just a little bit more. So now, since it's connected to the spool, I have to guide with my hand and I have to turn the piece. All right, so this is probably adequate. This doesn't have to be very long. My stone in particular is quite a flat stone. As you can see here, it's pretty flat. And this part is going to bend for the bottom of the stone to sit in. So since it's so flat, it doesn't need to be very big. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to start bending this. And you can grab your stone to put it there so you can kind of see the positioning of things so you don't accidentally bend it like too low or too high. And you want the bend to have the wraps on the bend itself, like this. Now the only thing is, it's kind of tricky to get a nice tight bend. As you can see, there's quite a bit of like air around there, especially if your stone is flat like mine, because then you have to bend this like pretty flat. So I'm just trying to use my pliers to help me as much as I can. So for the next part, actually, let me pop my stone out of here for just 1 second, because to me, this looks like it's ever so slightly tilted to one side. So I think that that's better now. All right, so the very edges, so this right and left edge wires, we're gonna move them out of the way temporarily like this. So the next thing that we wanna do is we wanna work on these middle wires here. We actually wanna tuck them through there. So to tuck them through, I'm just gonna trim them a little bit shorter because I find that it's easier to bend them when they're shorter. So I want them to go in here like this. And then here on the other side, I can just grab them with my pliers and just pull them through. Okay, so we just want to keep our stone centered, and we want to have each one of these wires just kind of tuck it in there, and that's going to help hold the stone because, as you can see, it kind of locks it from moving side to side. So we just have to finish off these wires. So make sure it's a nice tight wrap. And then we're just going to trim them and tuck in those wire ends. So just going to get short little wire ends so they hopefully just end up hidden in here. And if they go through to the other side, I might have to cut it shorter. So here it is. All right, so that's good, as long as you can't feel it. If you can feel it from the other side, then you want to cut it a little bit shorter. So I'm just trying to lift mine up so that I can try and get in there and just cut it a little bit shorter. All right. There we go. Now it's nice and short. I can't feel it from the other side. So now we just tuck away this one. This one looks like it's a good length. Probably won't need to trim it. Yep, there it is. All right, so now we just have these 2 wires left. Now, since the stone is already locked in place, if you wanted to do something with these wires that's a little bit different, then you kind of have the freedom to do that. You can make swirls with them. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put a sharp little bend. Now the hard part is to try and get that symmetrical on each side. So I want the bend, and then I also want the wire to go in and through. So like that. And now I'm just gonna try and do that on the other side. All right, so that looks even, so we're just gonna put it through. Pull it through, and now we just wrap it around. So it kind of forms a loop when you wrap around. So you just want to trim it. So there's a little wire end on both of these sides. And then we're just gonna close up that loop by pushing on this wire end and pushing it into the wire. So it's like going around and going into itself. Okay, and we're just gonna do that on the other side here. All right, and that's it for the stone portion. And then all we have to do is just make the bail. Now you could just do a lark's knot and use this as the bail, but I'm just gonna make a little bail that I attach to this so that it dangles. So for that, I'm gonna use this really thick half round wire. It is a 12 gauge, as you can see. It looks quite thick, but because it's half round, it's actually flat, like this, or it's not, technically it's not flat, it's half round, but it makes it much easier to bend. And the length of my piece is 2 inches. So you want to decide the size of bail that you want. So I'm just going to do this 4th one here. It depends on your necklace that you're going to be wearing with this, because you want the necklace to be able to fit through. So I'm just grabbing it and I'm wrapping it around, rounded side up and flat side down around this size here. And that is my bail. Now for this next part, you just want to make a little loop to be able to attach it. So this is a bit too long. I'm gonna trim it off, like cut it in half essentially. It will be slightly different for you because you might be making a slightly different sized bale. So I'm gonna try and wrap it around just the smallest bit here, but I'm actually not gonna close it up all the way. Or actually what I'll do is I will close it so that it forms that nice loop, and then I'll just open it a little bit like that. And hopefully that's enough that I can, oh, it is enough that I can slide this on. And I'm just gonna close that up by pushing on it. So it's closed up, and now we have this nice little dangle bale. And our pendant kind of hangs and dangles on this. It kind of looks like a little basket or like a hot air balloon, kind of. And here is what the back of it looks like. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you next time. Bye.